Okay, good evening. This is Norfolk Conservation Commission. We are meeting to interview 3 companies tonight to do our 5-year open space plan. The first group will be Beta, and I'll give a full presentation, or a brief presentation, because they're not repeating what's in the handout that they gave us. And if you need any more information, you can contact our office. I believe it's also on the website. So, not yet?
No.
Okay, there he is.
There it is. Well, Adam said you said it was left.
He was offering you the best seat in the house, right there.
No,
Yeah, in the corner.
come over here.
He said.
Oh, okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah, you're gonna get a cup.
Oh, yeah, good point. He's a voting
Oh,
Oh, no, you don't want to do that.
member. Yeah.
We'll see if it was worth it later on.
Remember, folks, it's all on tape.
okay, Laura, you're the spokesperson, correct?
Well, all 4 of us will be speaking, and Bill is going to start us off.
Oh, okay.
So just to introduce ourselves, I'm Bill McGrath. I'm a vice president in Beta's Transportation Group, and I'm the principal in charge for the project.
John Nero, professional wetland scientist in Beta's Permitting and Ecological Services Group.
I'm Laura Kraus. I'll serve as the project manager for this project, and I'm a senior project manager and the department lead for the Permitting and Ecological Services Group at Beta.
Randy Collins, I'm a vice president with Beta as well, and I lead the landscape architectural division.
Oh, okay.
So again, thanks for the opportunity to come in and present the team and talk about our approach. We think we're a good fit for the project. We've had a pretty long and successful relationship with the town, the planning board, conservation, ZBA, the land use department with Rich, and DPW as well. So we hope we can continue that relationship through the open space project. Just a little bit about Beta. We've been around for a little over 40 years. We're a mid-size consulting firm, about 170 people, but we do have a lot of in-house capabilities, from landscape architecture, permitting, transportation, planning. So we can lean on a lot of our groups as needed for the project. We are pretty local to Norfolk. Our Norwood office is about 10 miles away. We've also got an office in Worcester, as well as Lincoln, Rhode Island, which are within 30 miles as well. So pretty close, pretty accessible. Again, we've got a broad range of experience. I think it's a good fit for the open space plan. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And I think we do pride ourselves on being an employee-owned company. It helps all of us as we're working on projects and working with clients to have a little bit more buy-in, so that I think everyone recognizes that the success that we have as a staff helps you out as our client, but also helps us out as a company, and it kind of reflects back to everyone, since we all own a part of the company. And again, I think our staff, our team for this project, but in general, I think we have great technical capabilities, but I think we also take a creative approach to what we do, thinking outside the box a little bit, which again, I think leads to the success of the projects that we do. Again, this is just the org chart that was in the proposal, and I know we're not repeating what we did, but just to give you an idea, we do have additional staff, and a couple of other key staff. Jack Madden, who's been working with on Parks and Recreation ADA Master Plan, he's on our team. Matt Shute, who's been working on the Metacomet Greenway, as well as the Campbell Forest, some work up there as well. So we have their capabilities as well on the team.
Yeah, I saw your survey team up there on Campbell Forest the other day.
Yeah, they started the survey up there, so that'll be moving along, I think, pretty quickly. And again, like I said, we've had a long relationship, and I think a successful relationship with the town, whether it's on the asset management side, peer reviews we've done with, again, your committee, your commission, ZBA, planning board. We're going to be doing design work on the Metacomet Greenway, Campbell Forest. So I think we have a great understanding of what Norfolk is, and I think we've kind of got a leg up on the open space plan because of that. And I think we've also got a great working relationship with the staff and the boards and committees in town. So with that, I'll let Laura take over.
Thanks, Bill. So we have extensive experience in the region, and we plan to bring that to your plan, really providing a great context for how Norfolk fits within your larger regional context. Some recent experience in municipal planning that we've completed. We recently completed a beach management plan in Gloucester. That's a bit further away, but we completed a conservation land management plan in Westwood. John led that project, and that project was a very similar, kind of different, but similar to the type of work that we'd be doing with you, where he was looking at prioritizing, looking at all of the sites in town owned by the Conservation Commission, prioritizing various types of projects, and looking at which projects would be best for the community as a whole. And with it, he also teamed with Randy's group on that project to provide some renderings and to develop cost estimates for projects moving forward. Randy's group also recently completed a farmland master plan in Franklin nearby, and we also worked on the Newburyport open space and recreation plan. I actually led some of the field work for that and completed detailed inventories of each of the properties owned by both conservation and recreation. So, and we also recently completed the Coventry master plan, where I led the natural resources aspects, open space and recreation, as well as the water resources and stormwater portions of that plan, which are relevant to your project as well. We really have the technical expertise needed to make your project a success, and we look forward to working with you. In terms of process, we plan to use the new 2025 Open Space Recreational Planner Workbook that really provides a great resource to guide the process, and some additional recommendations for community engagement that were not included in previous planning guides. We plan to start the process with updating the maps and complete a detailed inventory in the field.
Can I interrupt you there?
Sure, yeah.
How much updating do you think there needs to be on the maps?
Well,
Since you're familiar with the town,
Yes,
I
yeah,
think you'd
yeah.
have the best perspective of that
Sure.
versus some of the other groups, maybe.
Sure, I think that the maps themselves, the plan that's up online right now has some of the maps clipped out, unfortunately, so I haven't seen the full scale of the maps that you have included in your OSRP, but you know, some of the maps don't need to be updated that significantly. Water resources, the soils, like those things don't really change over time. Some things that we would want to look at updating are, I don't believe that plan had environmental justice communities, so that would need to be included in your plan for this round, as well as updated goals, right? What you want to see, and that will all come out of the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plus, it's the compatibility of files, too.
Absolutely.
So now we're going to, you know, it's like getting a new computer. It's like, we're going to update all of the files for compatibility with the overall project folder and the end result of what we're going to produce for you as far as the plan goes.
Right, so that all of the maps look consistent. Maybe the data is the same, but our maps will all look consistent with each other, and so it will provide a nice product at the end that you guys can be proud of when you present it to the public.
I think we have a little bit of a head start on that because we have done some mapping through the ADA master plan that we're doing with Parks and Rec. So we at least have that template for the consistency that we're talking about.
Absolutely. And John's going to talk a little bit more about that briefly in a little bit, but before he talks about that, Randy is going to talk about the public engagement process. That's really important for these plans because really the plan speaks to the town and what the town sees for the future. So it's not our plan, it's your plan, and we want to make it something that you're proud of. So.
Yeah, you had mentioned in the RFP about exceeding the requirements. And I think that that aligns very well with what Beta really prides itself on as far as dealing with the public. We look at the best laid plans, whether they're a landscape plan, a transportation plan, or any of the work that we do really involving the public to get their input on the project. And we find that the satisfied customer at the end is really one that has been participating in that plan. So starting with a kickoff meeting, identifying and establishing an advisory committee, working through and developing online polls that can be taken. We are really excited about doing those kinds of things. There's things that we do all the time. It sounds like I'm not making it sound special, but what we need to do is be able to tailor those types of things to your community. And so understanding in the very beginning what that means about your community, what kind of things are important to them. Part of that will come out in the polling and the meetings that we will have that will work closely with you to develop. But part of that's going to be being able to be available to the community. And one of the things that we'd like to do is to work very closely with you to identify stakeholder groups, large property owners, being able to find out what they're thinking about, what kind of plans they have, what's their future in their mind, and how does that align with a future that the rest of the public is talking about. So we see that as far as a number of stakeholder meetings, a number of public meetings. We also like to go the extra mile. We do this all the time. I'll be doing it Monday night, is going to community events and having a table there, having a little board that explains what we're doing and what we're looking for. We find having a QR code there gets the public to be able to scan the questionnaire, the poll with their phone, so that they can take it away and do it at their leisure. And then having just information that the community can hand out to make people aware of all of the different steps, being able to drive them to a website, being able to keep them interested and engaged in understanding what your planning process is and how their input is going to shape that. And it's something that we really, like I said, are very excited about doing.
On the focus groups, we were having a little discussion before you arrived. Would they be focus group for recreation, a focus group for, I would say, school-age kid playground type things, a focus group for open space, one for conservation, or would they be, you want a mixture of people?
It would be good to have people from all of those disciplines, really, but it would be great to have parents that have the kids that are utilizing those facilities. Having somebody from the ADA population would be important, I think, as part of that group. So as diverse of a group as possible. I always like to put, or I should say, like to suggest some folks that are either outside the box thinkers. These folks, they go to the meetings, you hear them all the time, or some of the people that might be a little bit of a naysayer and be able to have that perspective. So as diverse of a group of people that will bring a number of different voices and concerns helps out. Makes it challenging, but that's our job to manage that and assist you in getting the most out of that group. And it's something that we really, I think, excel at at Beta.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna talk a bit about kind of the technical side of the plan preparation, the updates. So obviously the last time this plan was issued was 2017. This would be an update to that. It obviously is an update. I do like to think of it though, as a plan in of itself. We obviously would be referencing, the 2017 plan for where things stood in that period of time, what the goals were decided in that time, and what progress has been made on those goals since. But at the end of the day, 8 years is a pretty long time. A lot not only changes with the physical state of things in the field, but changes with the community and the regional context and the diversity of folks in town. And so it's important that we have that perspective, because the last thing that we and that any town wants to do is just treat this like a checkbox update to a plan. We want to give it the full attention it deserves, even if it's building off previous plans and information. So the first thing we do getting into that is conduct all the research and data gathering we need to do. That would most likely start with, desktop research, things like ensuring that parcel lists are up to date with what's been protected by the town since, that everything lines up in terms of, if we have to do some deed research to confirm some protections and some ownership, we can do that. And then the fun part, getting into the field and actually seeing some of these sites and collecting additional data. And I'll talk a bit more about that in another slide, but as Bill mentioned, we do have a bit of a leg up on that with some of the ADA master plan work that we've already done in the field. We've been collecting data on recreation and open space sites to see what's out there for ADA compliance and accessibility, and that's something that can directly dovetail and transition into this plan. And so as we mentioned too, we take all that data that was either researched or gathered in the field and use it to update the GIS maps. Like Laura mentioned, there's a number of maps that really shouldn't change too much, but some maps like protected open space and the acquisitions and wish list, that may change over time, commensurate with how the community has changed since 2017.
And if we change any zoning.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, part of the update is obviously of the maps is updating the data on the maps, but also, and, to what Randy said is, putting everything in a nice cohesive, consistent package that the town can find easy to present and also use the data themselves. And so arguably one of the most important parts of the plan is needs analysis and the community vision. What are you going to do with all this data and all this information? And so these needs will be outlined in part and largely by you and the stakeholders, the citizens of the town, through working with folks like Randy and his staff to actually find out what people want in their town and what direction they want to take things. But there's also a slightly technical side to it of what's out there in the field. As I mentioned, we've done some work in the field with the ADA master plan. We would collect data in the field similar to that. We have iPads that are actually have GPS, fairly accurate GPS signal on them, and we can go out in the field. And actually, what we did on the Westwood land management plan was we would go out into the field with these iPads. We'd have a pre-designed form on them, similar to what you see up there at the right. And we can go through the form in the field, fill out things in the field, locate particular features of interest or concern or need. And we can also take photographs in the field that are geo-referenced to exactly where the picture was taken. So all of that data can be put together to provide the town with something not only detailed and comprehensive, but usable. In a previous role, I worked as a conservation agent for a municipality. And, I worked through the OSRP process and various other master plans. And, I definitely understand firsthand the burden and struggle that can be put on towns with updating these plans and doing all of this. But, a firm like Beta can take care of all that in a comprehensive manner that gives the town a roadmap to actually be able to do something with the data and not just have a plan that sits on the shelf, something that really reflects the community and reflects a lot of detail.
Okay.
So in terms of formulation of kind of the end goal, right? What you want to see happen. We're going to use all of the public engagement that Randy had already spoke about and work with the steering committee to develop what those inputs are. John actually already talked a bit about this. And then we'll work to update the plan, discussing the improvements and updates that we think you're going to need for your existing facilities, identify any new recreational opportunities that the town, the community are looking for, and also help you update your land management practices, which I think is where Beta really shines, because we can tap into our engineers, our landscape architects, our GIS folks to really pull in the expertise that we, to develop those management practices that you have on the shelf, and you can say, okay, there's some erosion over here. We have our guidebook, this is what we can do. And finally, prioritize the land that you want to see protected in the long run. This slide just basically shows the process, really starting with the public meetings and the survey. That's really going to inform how we complete the inventory, the assessments, and the data review. We'll draft up the plan and then work with the committee and the staff at town and develop a plan that's then ready for the public to take a look at, comment themselves. We'll publish that on the website, as well as provide hard copies in certain areas, maybe the senior center, the town hall, probably library, and then we'll, once we get public comment back from that, send it to DCS for review. They'll have some comments, provide the final plan.
Do they have to review it?
It's required if you want it to be approved as a plan, and then once you have an approved, DCS approved plan, that allows you to seek grants.
Okay.
So that's very, it's important. Yeah. Yep. So last slide, I'll hand it back to Bill to wrap up.
And again, I think we've talked a lot about our experience and our relationship with Norfolk, but again, I think we're a great fit. We do have local offices, so we're readily accessible. I think we've demonstrated that we have the experience, not generally in the development of master plans, but also in Norfolk. Again, having worked with a number of the boards, a lot with Rich as well as DPW. We do have on our staff other people that are working in town that have a lot of familiarity. Our work on the ADA Recreation Master Plan has given us a chance to start to develop some of the information that you're going to need for the Open Space Master Plan as well. So I think it's all a great fit. And again, I'll say that we have the in-house expertise, not only for the core tasks as part of the master plan, but as other sort of outside tasks come along, we have the in-house expertise that we can draw on. So I think it's a great fit, and I think we can be a great benefit to the town moving forward.
Okay, I'm sure the board might have questions. I'll start, and then we can just go down the line. What do you see as the challenge to do this for us? Is there,
I'll leave it up to Laura as the
because
PM.
not everything is
No, it's not going to be a straight line.
No,
smooth
especially
process.
with these plans, I'd say public engagement is usually a big challenge. Really getting, making putting the word out there, making sure people are aware of this opportunity to comment on the future of the town and how you see your open space and recreation growing and what you want to prioritize. That's, I think, always a challenge. But we have a really good team who knows what they're doing in order to really make that happen.
I would agree, and it's getting the word out, but then how do you treat the people who come sort of at the end of it all?
Right.
And their input is just as valuable. It's unfortunate that they were a little late in getting to the party, but it's finding a way to balance that and be respectful to them and make sure that you make them feel like their comments count.
timeline. Is this enough time for you to do it that we've laid out?
So we laid out a schedule that I think it's actually.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah, it's right here.
It's doable.
It's doable. It's tight, right? It would take a push, but it's doable. Yeah.
I think part of meeting that timeline is going to be our responsiveness, but also our ability to coordinate with you guys.
Right, exactly.
That'd probably be the biggest holdup.
Scheduling the meetings.
Okay. Bill?
What mode of public forum would you guys use? Would it be in person, virtual, combination of both?
Randy, address that.
Well, I think that's a response that's based on what the community is really all about. I mean, some communities are very much towards the hybrid side, where they offer the ability to people to be able to do it from home. Ideally, if it were up to me, I'd say as many in-person meetings as possible would be great. I mean, you can really, when you've got a room of people who are really anxious about giving you comment, are interested in what you're saying, there is no better way to be able to read what they're really thinking than being face-to-face with them. And there's always that person who's a little bit uncomfortable speaking in public, and so they could be at the meeting, but you might be able to tell through their body language that they agree with something or disagree with something, and not putting them on the spot to open up just a general question and maybe see if they may respond. But there's also the part of this kind of plan that's really important to get as much input from the community as possible. And if there are people who want to or feel more comfortable being virtual, then we have the ability to set that up in that way and be able to do a hybrid. But it's the best way to do it, I think, is where the community feels comfortable. I always tend to lean on the in-person, but I'm a little bit old school as well.
Great, thank you.
Jim?
Two questions. One, grants. What can you do to help us, try to guide us, once a project's done, to get some money for grants to complete some of the projects that we're outlining that we need to do?
Bill, I'm going to direct this one to you.
Yeah, so we've worked with a lot of communities on grants through the One-Stop Community Grant Program. Actually, we're working with Ashburn here, Mass, to try to get them a grant to do a similar type of open space recreation master plan. We were successful working with them to get a grant to do a downtown master plan. I think the ADA work that we're doing with Parks and Recreation is coming through an ADA grant. And I think the draft plan that we developed is moving towards an additional ADA grant to start to implement a couple of projects. We've worked with MassWorks grants. We've worked with Mass Trails grants. So we've got a pretty good knowledge of all the grant programs. But I think bottom line is having your plan, and like Laura said, having it approved as a plan, which is going to give you a little more leverage in trying to get grant money. But we've worked through a lot of the programs.
And you
Housing
you
choice.
help write the grants?
We've helped write the grants, yep. We've done a variety. We've done some where we've virtually done the entire grant process and just handed it over to the community to submit. We've done others where there's folks in the community that want to be involved and are gathering the data, and we're providing more on the technical side, cost estimates, things like that. So we can do it in a variety of ways.
We've done a lot of work assisting communities with park grants as well.
Yep.
And so, a lot of what we're doing in the master plan, developing the plan, is sort of with an eye towards getting those grants. And so creating the language and maybe some graphics that get embedded in your plan that can be pulled out and put towards the application is a way we like to look at it as well.
One of the challenges you have, which is what you're up against, is maintenance of the trails. We've had luck with two groups. The Lions Group has helped us tremendously. And then we've had some private groups that ride bicycles through and have built bridges for us and done that type of thing. Is that something that you'd be able to work with them and get some commitment? Because we need, what we don't have is like a typical business. This is the work that needs to be done in March, April, May, get the trails ready. This is the work that needs to be done during the summer to maintain the trails. These are our goals for the trail going forward. Like you're talking about mapping with the iPad. Poor Val and his 4-H group got lost because people are making trails everywhere and it's not something that they could follow. So we want to make sure that those type of things are included, because the predominance of our recreation open space is dominated by school-age kids needing space to play sports. And we just want to make sure that we don't leave out the people that comment on our Facebook pages about keeping Norfolk, Norfolk. And then the other groups that would like a place to be able to utilize a recreation space. But we're missing that ADA piece, we're missing well-labeled trails, we're missing a lot of those pieces. But I just want to know, how you work with these other groups to kind of guide us with, hey, I've had luck with, we assign the Boy Scouts this type of stuff in a town, or is that something you do?
Yeah, I mean, I can take this if you want. So, I mean, just personally, I definitely fall into the latter of the groups you mentioned. I'm a avid cyclist, mountain biker. I've been riding and building trails for most of my life. But translating that professionally, when we've worked on conservation land management projects, either at Beta or that I've worked on, on the municipal side, is that's all part of, what I mentioned with creating that kind of actionable plan that you can actually use and implement. So it's one thing just to identify, oh yeah, we went out to this site and the trails are really hard to follow and it looks like someone's cutting zigzags through the woods, but it's another thing to then take that and be like, oh, well, you could maybe reach out to your DPW to see if they have some in-house sign-making capabilities, or you can reach out to an Eagle Scout or Boy Scouts to get some Eagle Scout projects for bridge replacement and repair, or interpretive kiosk installation. And, some of those kiosks might already be identified as necessary based on, what our landscape architects and we see in the field. So we definitely have an eye, much like Randy said, when we work on the plan, we have an eye towards grants. When we work on collecting some of this data in the field, we have an eye and a mind towards what you can do to actually resolve something and what kind of resources you can use. I know, going back to the Westwood plan, I referenced, a lot of that when we did, Bill and Randy's group helped us with some cost estimates for getting projects done, and we found that some projects were feasible enough for, to get volunteers together or to get, town entities to get on board with. And so, some projects like that, you don't need to go out and hire a contractor. You might be able to do it in-house. So definitely have all that in mind to not just identify what needs to be done, but come up with how it can be done.
I think also part of that is looping those groups that you have just mentioned into the stakeholder, meeting, so that they can weigh in on what's helpful, what would they want to see as part of this plan, that we can help them identify, timelines for projects that could fall under that maintenance, help you develop your maintenance plan, include that in the plan. And as John was talking about the inventory, a lot of the inventory includes like picking up where the signage is, where like trails might be a little warped or things like that. That'll all be in the plan. So then you'll have a piece of paper, a map that says, okay, this area, this seems like maybe there's a drainage problem here. The trail gets really wet. So that's something that maybe you want to focus on in the spring.
Yeah, and just one thing to add on to that, it's a good point about, getting these folks to the stakeholder meetings, because, you go in the woods and you get lost because people are cutting trails and stuff. Imagine those efforts that those people spent cutting these rogue trails if they were actually brought into these meetings.
Right, and the way that they would actually follow what the town sees, right? If you bring everyone together.
I was going to bring that up because the New England Mountain Bike Association, that is the one.
Right.
They're great to work with, but we'll create new trails for you. Campbell Forest, Lynn Farms. Lynn Farms is their primary one. And so it's like, do we give them the leash and let them do it? I would want to see it on paper and not just say, okay, we're going to do it and take a chainsaw and start.
So I have a lot of ties with folks at NEMBA, and so it's funny you mentioned, because the organization has matured a lot in the past 25 years or so, and there is a lot more on their side being pushed to come to towns and not just cut a trail that a mountain biker might want to see. It's actually something that the town wants to see, and the important part is getting them involved early on in these planning processes. And I've found that, we certainly have the ability to recommend ways to bridge that gap, and, that way the plan can be enacted and everyone can be happy.
And like Jim said, they were the ones that built the bridges at Little
Yeah.
Farms. And so it's like, let's stop the erosion and all the problem with the wetlands. We'll build a bridge, we'll put, the slopes on the sides away from it, so there's, nobody will be going near the wetlands. It's worked out perfect.
That's great.
And so, we'd like to see more of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, like Jim said, like the Lions, well, maybe they'll come back and say, this is the maintenance that conservation has, every year. And I'm the one that does it because I'm part of a Lion, and so the one guy, I just kind of ragging on him all the time. And, but they may say, we've had enough. We don't want to do it anymore. Or this is the limit we want to do. We'll go and cut the underbrush along the trail, but we don't want to spread the wood chips.
So it's kind of like the maintenance part where do we invest in, the iPad program to GPS these trails? Is it something the Boy Scouts can do? Is there a company? How often do we need to do it to re-verify trails? Those are some of the type of things that we need to work into the plan so that it's easy as we have a monthly, we only meet once a month and it's hard. So if we know, hey, these are the 30 action items that we have for the year, we can say, hey, we need a budget for this, and this is what we're doing with it. It's, maybe it's 5% of the people use it, but the fact that we have it is what the town's about. And so, but be able to maximize that space, because we don't, it's almost like we don't want to wait till, we have to hire a company to go in and cut down a bunch of trees that have fallen on trails, because we waited till the end instead of being a little bit, more of, hey, we need somebody to go in once a year, walk the trail, identify trees, and we need to put aside this much money every year for trail maintenance for these type of things, because we have a full-grown forest that's going.
Right.
So that's kind of, and I think once the people in town see the whole picture of what we're offering and you're offering and the maintenance, it's a little bit better understanding than, hey, wait a minute, I can walk my stroller through this area because we have an ADA compliant area, whereas before it's sticks and twigs, they really can't.
Yeah.
So I think we get more of a town buy-in
Absolutely.
of those type of things.
Yeah, I think that's part of what we'll do, because you're right, I think you want to get at the routine maintenance done. If you're doing routine maintenance all the time, it's like the old Fram oil filter commercial, pay me now or pay me later, but if you do the routine maintenance, you're ahead of it, and you're mostly avoiding those more costly large tree clearing operations or things like that. So yeah, I think that's something we incorporate into the work and the plan, so.
Based on medium, I assume you'd be the community page through Facebook, you'd put something out there in order to grab the populace opinion on what's required for the town. I think nowadays, I understand what you're saying. I myself am old school, pressing the flesh. I'd rather hear it and see it from the people involved, but it's a different way nowadays. A lot of younger folks, they're all about Facebook, and that would be, I would assume, a medium that you would use to collect data.
Yeah, we'll definitely use social media, the website, Instagram, I don't know.
Any and all.
All
Sure.
the
And one of the
social
things that
media.
we do to support that and sort of initiate it is maybe even have a backpack program where we'll do flyers that they hand out at the schools to all the kids and give them the social media links so that they are able to do, what they do and get on and download information, share thoughts and ideas. We're working on a project in Hartford right now, a big master plan for their biggest park, 700 acres. And one of the things that we're doing is designing a poll specifically for the kids. And it's getting distributed through the different schools, and it's through, through a website that they are able to get online and share both yes or no answers, but also write things out for us as well.
Great. In regards to dealing with the grants, or the experience that you have dealing with the grants, what percentage do you feel your success rate would, where the rubber meets the
track
road,
that,
as
Bill?
they say?
I don't know that we track it specifically. Anecdotally, I think it's about 50%. And I don't know, it may be 75%. I don't know that we track.
Could be 42, but I understand,
possible,
truly,
but-
there's no record. But you feel good about your past history
Yeah,
and achieving the goals.
Yeah, and
Sure.
I'll say that partly because work that we get is follow-up to us helping a community get a grant.
Of course.
So, and I think we've had pretty successful in getting work. So I'll say I think that relates to being fairly
Correlates
successful
to it, sure.
getting the grants.
Yeah, and I'll qualify what Bill said a little bit. I think where he's hedging on the 50% is sometimes we don't get the 100% of what we ask for.
Never.
And we don't look at that as a complete success, but it's getting something, and usually it's enough to get you off the ground.
Productivity, sure.
Yeah.
Well, moving forward. Sounds great.
Great. It's clearly an important project for the town, and with the thought of a lot of folks maybe thinking that this is just another way for the town looking to spend the town's money, how do you combat that in the public sessions to get the town residents really involved in the engagement of planning and there's a lot of boxes up on that project plan. How do you get past that mentality of this is just another way to spend money, and really this is critically important to the town moving forward?
Well, it starts with a dialogue and understanding what they need, and really making sure that you're starting with what people are thinking about, what is important to them. At the end of the day, when you show them the broad range of facilities, I'm willing to bet that people will learn a lot about the town when they sit in some of the meetings and really start to understand what you have in the way of open space and recreation. Some people may understand playgrounds and their kids are young, but they don't understand sports fields, and they don't understand trails, and they don't understand all the needs that go. I mean, we just had the conversation about the maintenance. I mean, when you start looking at that and you start educating them through the public process, it really starts, I find it starts to open up some eyes. And so it's really a part of understanding what the needs are, but giving them information about what they have and talking about what it is that some of the shortfallings are, trees down, erosion, playgrounds that are starting to move into a point where they're not meeting the codes for safety and whatnot. And when you start talking about that kind of thing, that's sort of the nuts and bolts of a community like this, sort of a family-oriented community, they really start to pay attention to it. And I think you'll find that they actually think about this is the right place to spend money.
And I think, building off that initial dialogue, when we then kind of dive into the plan, start collecting data, a lot of, as scientists, engineers, landscape architects, we often find ourselves in places where people aren't traversing every single day, and a lot of things become out of sight, out of mind. So people someone may say, oh, well, our town already has, X number of playgrounds and all these trails, but then you might find out that some may be in, serious disrepair and need serious work. And then when you see that there can actually be a tangible way laid out to address these and ultimately, give people a better return on investment on their resources, it becomes a lot more palatable for citizens.
It's also important to note that that this plan is also a vehicle to get additional funds, right? You need this plan to get grants, so that's another thing that we would also identify, bring that to the public.
And I think people need to see that there's a project or projects that come out of this plan, that you're not just taking the plan, spending the money, and you're going to put it on the shelf. There's actually tangible projects and improvements that come out of it, that go through the grant program. But I think if people can see that you're actually looking ahead to making improvements, I think that helps get some buy-in as well.
Are you taking proactive steps to build that? Like, everything you said is great. Are you taking proactive steps to do that ahead of the public engagement, or to educate them before they show up? Or is this all just happening when the folks show up?
Well, and I'll let Randy weigh in, but, I think the public engagement is a sort of a continuous process. So we're not going to necessarily, when we first start to talk to the public, have projects that we can talk about. We talk about the plan and the process, but as we get further along, then I think we get that out to the public, that here's some ideas of what we're looking at as part of the product of the plan.
Yeah, one of the ways that I find it works really well is in the very first meeting, and any of the information that you're disseminating, polls, and things like that, you really are focusing on what conditions that you have today. And then in that first public meeting, we'll talk about what we see, and that usually starts to spur conversations about what the public sees. And so that's the opportunity to really give them a full understanding of the breadth of what the town has. And that's before you're talking about any of the improvements or anything like that.
Great, thank you.
I don't really have a question. I want to thank you all for your presentation, but I would say I've recently discovered that the digital divide is real, so that the outreach should include places that, senior center or things, because I have a friend that doesn't even text.
I'm not that old school.
But
Well, he's old.
Well, so am I, but.
that's
Yeah.
all.
No, it's a really good point.
Significant overlay
Yeah,
in the
it's
town,
diverse.
It's a really good point. And so you could as simply as have, a box next to a sign in the library, comments here, and they can, a stack of paper and a couple of pens next to it, and let them write the comments out and drop it in the box.
And to that, it might not be a bad idea to have a box like that at the senior center.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly what he's saying is,
Yeah.
they don't have email, or they don't readily are going to scan a QR code.
Right.
Or have a phone that does the QR code, and they feel kind of out of touch and don't feel like what their ideals and
Matter.
ideas of the town
Right.
have been matched. So I think letting the people know that they, several different places that, hey, you can fill out a form online.
Yeah. What-
Fill it out in person.
When we've done past projects where we have polls, we always have hard copies of the polls there. So if we're doing an event at a farmer's market or something like that, we'll have the QR code, but we'll have a stack of the paper copies as well.
So you're talking about, you would go to something like the farmer's market we have, and then have a booth there, so the people walking around would have an opportunity to either use their device or hand write in a...
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're there to buy the pies, or at least I am.
Yeah, once you start getting into leaving people out, even if it's for something like a digital divide, that only just diminishes, the quality and the usefulness and value of
That's
the
a good
plan.
point.
Well, it's like our waterways. We originally were only voting every time water chestnuts got out to like 30% of a water body. And then we finally said, this is enough. We need to, there was a guy in there, and I said, well, what do you do in other towns? He says, oh, we have maintenance plans. And that's what we need to do. We need to have a maintenance plan. You don't wait till all the paint's falling off your house before you patch a little hole. And so now, the broad maintenance plan to do it, and that's, we started with the water, but this open space is just beyond what a part-time, no fee board could do.
They gotta be
It isn't
proactive.
right to the townspeople, because it's not, you have the expertise, and that's what we need to be able to get this up and rolling, so that our open space is more usable. And, we've got, and I'll leave with Campbell Forest, with old growth, solid timber, where nothing really lives, that we've never clear-cut any spaces to kind of promote the smaller mammals, insect growth, and that stuff. And I know a lot of people see here clear-cut, and they freak out, but you go to the White Mountains, there's patches all throughout, and they explain why.
It's managed, right?
Right, that's the type of stuff that we don't have a management program for, and no budget for. Clear cutting a section every few years, or 3 years, or, we need to do it randomly in these different areas so that our forest is more diverse and.
Yeah, selective cutting.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we tend to use the word selective clearing, but
Yeah,
A gentler term.
yes.
gentler term.
More
But the
palatable.
management part of it is the key.
Is the key, yeah.
Yeah, being proactive, not reactive.
Yeah.
But again, it's good to have you here, because that's the type of literature that needs to go out when the people are walking around, so they get more informed of what, this whole thing encompasses. It's a trail, it's, education about, a placard with why we did, remove these big trees and old trees, and what's there now and what was living there before.
If people understand the reason for what you're doing, it doesn't appease everybody, but I think it appeases a lot of people if they understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Rich?
You covered it well.
Yeah, really, thank you. I think this was a good session. When would you, if we said, okay, at our next meeting, we make a decision and we say, okay, Beta, you've got it. When would you be able to put pen to paper and feet to the trails?
Start scheduling meetings pretty much right away and get a draft survey together. That's a really important aspect right away. Yep.
I think we're basically ready to go as soon as we got notice to proceed.
Now, my perspective on this, we've had these. Where do they go? In the shelf. Nobody reads them. I want to see that it's a working document that all of us and Recreation always has, that they should be referring to and saying, hey, they mentioned this. Can we start working on it, focusing on it? And because, as you know, people are, as Jim said, we're all volunteers. It's not like a business where we're focused on certain aspects. It gets,
But they need to be able to go on Campbell Forest, and everything that we're doing in the forest should come up. And they could talk about the clearings, the different types of animals. We should be able to add that type of stuff, and it should be easily to find a map and be able to use a map through the forest. And it shouldn't be that difficult, but we're drawing away from books, but we need to be able to have a full implementable plan that anybody on their iPhone could look and say, hey, I'm at Freeman Kennedy School, where are the fields? And they can look on their phone, because the whole town, all our recreation, open space, bike paths, everything is accessible for them of what I can do in town. And I think we get a better end of user, and then we get more people utilizing the trails, the recreation areas, and
Perhaps even number them, such as mile markers, so Val won't get lost.
yeah.
And arrows.
Right, oh yeah. With all the trails that new and old existing, I think that would be helpful. In regards to the boxes, I think that's a great plan, and I would also recommend, along with the library and the senior citizen, I would
Right
put a
here.
box right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
People coming into the town, they'd
Paying their
actually
bills.
paying their taxes, those are the ones that actually currently the voices of the town. The wee ones at home that watches, cartoons, that's great, and that is an incentive as families develop, as you know, children, different ages, different likes, dislikes, etc. But I think the old school check the box, I think that's a great thing as well.
And then, talk about mile markers so people can find their way. There's another practical use is emergency response.
As well, sure.
Absolutely.
So people can pinpoint where they are.
In the case of emergency.
What we've done on previous plans too is, we've actually used to help inform us of where these, what parcels should be prioritized for these kind of improvements is we can actually, I know we just talked about the digital divide, but there's a lot of open source public data that we can use. It's actually heat map data from people's GPS traces, whether they use Strava or Trailforks or those other applications. You can find out where the people are really using the properties. And if you go to one of those properties and you see, okay, we have all these people using it, but maybe it needs trail markers to build on that, or maybe you see a parcel has almost no uses. It's a gorgeous parcel, but it's a spaghetti network of trails.
I think there's two things that come out of this. One, people will be surprised of the inventory we have. Conservation, open space. They kind of know recreation, but future recreation. And two, what was my second one? I'll leave it at that. I can't think of it. That's my mind, so I couldn't think for it. But, yeah, I mean, it's an important thing. I think we're taking a different look at it than maybe previous. And, what I was going to ask is, at the end of this, you give us a book, you'll present it, we present it to the public. Do you stay with us? Or,
Well,
with
we're
this
helping,
contract, or
when
do
we're
we-
helping you get grants to
Yeah.
do that, yeah, we're hoping
okay,
to.
so you're in an advisory role. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best case scenario is that we successfully create a plan that the community really embraces and is motivated to see implemented,
Yeah.
and that we assist you in getting grants. And then when you get the grants, we help you make the project happen and put it out to bid and have successes so that people see that it was a well worth effort to go through that process.
What I find, because I live right next to Campbell Forest, so I can see the traffic. Since COVID, it's increased tremendously. It never used to be used with a couple people here and there, other than myself and my dog. But now, throughout the day, single people, people with their dogs, people with their young kids, groups of people going with their kids and stuff like that, or a group of women I saw the other day, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. But yeah, and that's what we want, everything to be used. I mean, that would be our success, is we develop all of our open space, conservation, recreation, and they're used. They're not just sitting there. And yeah, we'll prioritize which project is first, and then just go down the list and start saying it, and then go from there.
It completely aid us in getting funds from either CPC, the town, and then grant money. And it's easy when we go to the town and say, this is our maintenance plan, and why we have a maintenance plan, and they can readily see the grant money coming in and these projects coming in, maintaining what we have, then they completely understand. But when they say, oh, we need $10,000 to do this, well, why? And they don't really know.
Right.
It's different from, coming up with this plan and actually executing it, maintaining it.
And just the other thing I'll say, follow-on work, because we're in town a lot. So after the plan is complete, as things come up, we're in town, so we're available to answer questions or talk about other approaches.
One quick question, if I may. What, if any, role would you have in collecting estimates for the projects that you come up with?
So I think
That falls
part
to
of
us.
that's part of what we would do, is what we would call budgetary estimates.
Right, so, sure.
For projects. They're not going to be detailed estimates until
course.
you do the design, but they're sort of budgetary level, so you can talk to
Grants and town,
about
sure.
how much do we need for grant money, where can we get the money? And you have a target for what you need.
Need to know. Everybody wants to know how much and how long.
Bill's helped out before on those kind of plans, his group, with like, okay, well, town needs an access road to a pond is in disrepair. Okay, what's the linear foot cost of paving the road and doing the curbing and all that? So can definitely get order of magnitude estimates early on that way.
Good. Any other questions for this group?
Well, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For having us in.
Transition to the next firm while they get a chance to do stuff. You can take a comfort break.
Stretch your legs.
Stretch your legs break. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Have a good night.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Rich.
You know,
Nice to meet you.
Christine Bailey that does massage?
No. Yes.
Yeah, she came in today. She was getting, thousands of euros.
drinks too much liquid.
You don't have to tell me, but I taking pills, my heart pills, water. was a bit concerning, obviously.
Oh, yeah, it was quite a setback in having to stay off of it, but I beat the timeline. They said 6 to 8 weeks, and this is like 4 weeks.
Oh, man's a fast healer. That's great.
And I normally am not, but I listen to them, I follow directions, and
That helps.
yeah, and I use those ways of healing things, iodine.
Is he putting?
Whatever works.
You know, you gotta
Old
dry it
school.
out and
That's
let
right.
it heal.
Something pages.
Iodine.
Right.
Oh, there, you know, it's like-
thing people talk about anymore.
Curacao, say.
Yeah, but they don't use it like we used to use it. But that was the best thing. And I happen to have some from the previous rooms, and so I...
Come on in. Oops, sorry.
Keeping it sealed in one seal.
Yeah, come on in. Yeah, we're ready, yeah.
You have to have it open. So most of the time, there's nothing on it, and I use a Band-Aid.
Air dry.
Air dry. Today I just hit
Away from it, brother.
Oh, yeah. I nicked it today, and so it bled a little bit.
Yeah.
My wife saw it when I put it on. And I said, "It just nicked
Doing a
it."
short presentation, if that's
Acceptable?
acceptable?
Yes, it
That I
is.
was told it would be.
Yes.
Yep, I'll,
We're true to our word.
That's
You were able
excellent.
to get your automobile
we,
straightened out?
Yep, it's all ready
Should
to
I
go.
sit, or does anyone have a preference?
No, you can sit there. It's, yeah, all ready to go, all fixed. Here, yeah. And, yeah, and I drove it home and stuff, and then this happened. But we had a bad discussion coming here because my wife hates the car. We paid too much for it and this and that. And it's like-
After it's
And I
already
said, well,
done.
I'll trade it
yeah,
in.
you can actually,
I want a
you can sit a
mobile
chair, if you like, and I'll just get
Maybe
the,
they'll
so
provide
that
them.
in the future, if something
Travel.
happens,
Then I'll know.
I can drive right into it.
Sure.
All right, you're up.
I'm up.
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you.
well, not quite yet, I gotta get the
Oh, come on, Rich.
presentation going.
No,
Thank you for inviting me.
Our admin people are a little, you know, if you're too good at this, we'll have to have you come to the meetings, because sometimes Elaine
You
has
need a
trouble
little
pulling them up.
assistance. Sure.
Guess I
It's hard.
an angle.
Oh, you could sit wherever you want, at the end of the table, whatever you feel.
It's just a few slides just to reintroduce what we have in our proposal.
Okay.
And clearly I'm the only one, didn't,
What's up?
the prior group didn't have a presentation.
Yeah,
Well,
they had a
did,
few
but
slides.
They use their laptop.
Oh, I also have my laptop.
Oh,
Is that easier?
If you want to do it that way, it might be easier for you. Sure.
Okay.
We can,
Well, I'm booting up. So my name is Krista Moravec. I am a planner and project manager at Horsley Witten. We are based in Sandwich, out on the Cape, but we also have offices in Boston, Exeter, New Hampshire, Providence, where I am based out of, the U.S. Virgin Islands.
I want to go there and see your work.
We want to get more. I've had the luxury of one project recently down there, and it is an amazing place, truly an amazing place. Now I have to remember my password. I had been with Horsley Witten for about 14 years. My coworker, Johanna Walzak, who is in the proposal, she is on vacation this week, so unfortunately she could not make it tonight. We are, we'll just give it a second, just in case. There we go. There we go. So that's me. So we are environmental consulting firm. We're planners, designers, engineers. I've listed some of our service areas that are most relevant to an open space and recreation plan. So being such a multidisciplined firm, these people, like literally those are the people that I can tap. Oh, I was waiting for Teams to pop up. So those are the folks that I can tap when we have questions, when we're talking about needs, when we're looking for best practices, thinking about strategies. I can reach out to these individuals and ask them questions and have them give us some case studies, some of those answers that we might be looking for. Since I've been with Horsley Witten, I've worked on several open space and recreation plans. Since there is a list in our proposal, and since then, we have gotten approval for Hudson, and approval just this week with North Andover. So we've worked through that process. We understand how it is, and some of these communities I've worked with more than once. Just to kind of do a brief overview of our approach. So we do use DCS guidance because we want to make sure that you get an approved plan so you remain eligible. They did update it this past spring. There's some pros and cons to their update, but it is, we will definitely use it to make sure you get your approved plan. You're going to be using a steering committee, which is great. So the CONCOM plus Rec Commission, we've worked with committees and working groups. Just a diverse group of folks to the table helps ensure that you're covering all your bases, you're understanding all the issues. You want us to use existing plan size and projects, completely agree. You mentioned your open space corridor plan that was done earlier in the 2000s, your MVP outcomes, but most exciting is your recent hazard mitigation plan and your master plan. So those are good starting points to build on. They both touch on open space and recreational resources. So that's, like I said, a good jumping off point. The beta folks, they're working on an ADA accessibility plan for conservation and recreational resources, another great resource to have for this plan. We like to do an action plan report card, and by that we mean we look at your current plan, try to understand what you've done, and what hasn't been done. And if you haven't done it, why wasn't it done? Was it resources or priorities change? So kind of understand that. Do you want to carry it forward into the next update? So really using that as a starting point. That can also be a really good public, informational tool, a good educational tool to let them know how important this plan is, that you use it, that it helps guide decisions and helps you make investments in these places. We use an iterative process, and by that I mean the plan as we go through the plan, each section kind of builds on the next. So those first opening pieces, the 3, 4, and 5, they're all about inventories and sort of understanding where you're at with those conditions, what has changed since the last update. Once we understand that, we can move on to needs and documenting our needs, et cetera. We're going on to the goals and objectives in our action plan. So trying to make sure we get through those first sections before we move on to the next one. And then public engagement, a very important thing that you highlighted in your RFP, and I agree. And I have a couple of slides regarding that, but I really think that's a big piece of how you're going to draft your plan, making sure you're understanding needs. Yeah, go for it, please.
No, I'll wait.
No, you're going to wait? Okay. Okay. Fair enough. I think, referring back to, you've just done your master plan. It also touches on a lot of open space and recreational needs. I feel like that is something that should be built on. You don't want to revisit the same topics if the community has already expressed their desires, their concerns. So I think that I would suggest for your open space and recreation plan, how can you take that one step further and get more, maybe there's more individuals or organizations you talk about, some different stakeholders that didn't quite get in touch with during that process. Well, this is a good opportunity to reach out to them. And we have a diverse set of tools. One of the first things we do when we start a project is do a public participation plan and community engagement plan, whatever you want to call it, but really just outlining what are the best approaches for your town that work. We want to make sure we're doing things that your residents respond to or your businesses respond to. Forums, you mentioned you want to do 3 public forums, you want to do a survey, so we can coordinate all that, but you also want to do other types of engagement. These are just some examples. We can do pop-up events, maybe at a park or a rec facility if we have a survey going, tabling at existing events. It's always good to go where people are at. You mentioned meeting with stakeholders. I love this picture because the kids, I think the youth are a missing group that we have a tough time getting, and they're big users of parks and open spaces. So finding a way to really engage them. This was in Middletown, Connecticut. So it wasn't...
No way. I grew up there.
Did you really?
I did.
So you have a point of reference. So we worked in the downtown, and we were really looking, so not a open space and recreation plan per se, but we were trying to find ways to identify more parks or open spaces in their downtown area. And we met with these kids, and they told us where they go and where they're coming from, and we got to learn sort of the shortcuts that they take through different properties. So it was really, they have such a different perspective, so it was really fun to meet with them. So I feel like they're sort of a stakeholder that is untapped. And then online presence, we do project websites. This is a story map that we're doing in Attleboro. They have a flood mitigation project, very map-oriented graphics, so very data-heavy. We can do those. Or working with volunteers is another great way to engage. People are really passionate about open space and recreational resources, so it's a good way to get them involved and to perhaps keep them after the plan's done to continue to help. So in your RFP, you had sort of your additional components, and I just wanted to make sure that I touched on those, and you'll probably have questions about them, just to kind of check the boxes, so to speak. So you want us to review planning documents? Absolutely. It's part of our data data gathering and getting to know Norfolk, looking at the progress of your past plan. That's when we do the audit, we can do that. It's also part of community engagement, understanding needs. Looking at your current land management plans for your open space parcels. That is also part of our data gathering. We want to understand, what has been done for sort of recommendations that are in those plans? Do you need to revisit some of them to put action items in this current plan? Reviewing regional initiatives for cooperative opportunities, absolutely. That's helps with, particularly with shared resources, helping to leverage other types of resources like financial resources, people, those types of things. So these last two would definitely be outside of sort of like the scope of writing the plan. That doesn't mean it's not going to inform them, but you're looking for templates for best management practice for open space parcels, really trying to understand what your objective is with those. Are they particular properties that you're interested in? Are there, we've interviewed perhaps Concom or Conservation, DPW, whoever is sort of managing those properties and trying to understand where are the needs, what are your common objectives, or just trying to understand what the purpose. I mean, a best management practice template could be really anything. And then the other is an annual budget. And again, understanding who is this budget for? Most Concoms don't have budgets. Are these your properties? Is it staff? So really trying to understand and sort of setting you up, just recognizing that costs are a moving target lately. They continue to go up. So sort of setting, maybe it's a range of costs, trying to think about how best to make a tool that's useful for you. It's not just a one-time thing, so something that perhaps you could update on a regular basis. And I just also finally wanted to touch on schedule. I know in your RFP you said 9 months. I thought that was quite ambitious, and I suggested 12 months. Really, the reasoning for that is, you want to do 3 public meetings. I feel like the action plan takes a lot of back and forth, particularly if you're talking about others who are going to help you implement it. It's good to check in with folks before you put them as responsible for doing something.
You think because a lot of it is, what does the town provide you for information and this and that as you go along? If you get the information flow and the feedback, can you do you see this being shortened?
Shortened,
To the 9 months?
yeah. I think it's,
I mean, we want to give enough time.
right.
Just, your organization.
I also, and that is fair, I also feel like there's a lot of check-ins with, the steering committee, how often are they going to meet? I proposed 6 meetings. There's a lot of material to review, and who is responsible for reviewing that? It would be interesting, what is the role of the steering committee? Are they going to redline draft material? Who would be, do you anticipate there's going to be a lot of back and forth about agreement on certain strategies? So I feel 9 months is challenging. I know you have an open space a master plan, which seemingly it could just be, we could just use that, because that has happened in the reverse too. A lot of communities will use their open space and rec plan for their master plan. I see that as an opportunity to go deeper. The action plan for your master plan is a lot of maybe more general actions, and I feel like this is an opportunity to do specific and check that box and move it off the list. I'd hate to promise that I can do it.
It was just an open question.
Yep, and it's a fair question.
Not looking to.
And I appreciate.
If it takes 12 months, it takes 12 months. We want a good working document at the end.
I'm just going to grab my water. And I appreciate the opportunity to provide a longer schedule, recognizing that you do want something quick. Is there a reason why you want it done in 9 months?
No, you can't ask.
Okay.
No,
I don't ask doesn't mean you get an answer.
because Rich put it down. No, I don't know.
thought so.
I don't think it.
We're not necessarily, we need to get the plan done to get approved because there's eminent acquisition going. So,
Understood.
So
And
we don't
that
have
is
that necessarily, so there's not something driving. It's just that Be timely and move
want to
things
get it
along,
done. You want to, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel not, I've never done a plan in 9 months. I think 12 months.
It's fair enough. I'd
Yeah.
rather hear it, honestly.
Yeah.
Versus have you give me a false sense of security and then break my little heart at the end.
I would not want to break your heart.
No, surely.
Yeah.
I appreciate your honesty, so you feel that 12 is a magic number, approximately 12 months.
Yeah, and most of it is trying to coordinate. And I do appreciate that you would just take it over the finish line in the sense as you would work, the town would work on acquiring the letters of support, and you would do the mapping. I think that helps. That definitely helps with the process. I think my biggest, I think the action plan takes the most focus. Doing 3 public meetings in 9 months is also pretty ambitious. Typically, I would do 2 public meetings for an open space and rec plan. Not that I don't think that it's worthy to do a lot of public engagement. I just, sometimes people don't show up, and it's hard to get people out, and plus you've just been through this whole master plan process, and that seemed pretty extensive in that outreach effort. And I'm a Libra, I like to balance stuff, but I do see the value in using that information. We did that in Wakefield. They were just finishing up their master plan, so we tried to understand what people were saying and try to go, acknowledge we heard you, we're not doing the same thing, but maybe you could tell us a little bit more about X. So, that's really my last slide.
Okay. I'll start off with the questions, and then we just go down the line. You talk about future acquisitions, parcels of land, and then what it would take to purchase them. I mean, like farmland or this, little lots are maybe more feasible, but we have a couple big farms in town and people that own a lot of acreage that we'd say,
Yeah.
and work a deal with it,
Yep.
through the town, tax deals, this and that. But that's, I think, a big part of this is we have a nice collection of properties, lot for recreation. We have, I think, 6, 7 conservation areas. Some of them are no bigger than this room, and they're less than this room. And so it's like, I would think we would want to acquire pieces of property for passive use, maybe a little bit of recreation, but passive. Now, when reading your proposal, it seemed like we were responsible for all the foundation information and data.
Right, most of that, so that information, are you talking about the inventory of the resources?
Well, mapping.
Well, that's what, it said that the town would do the mapping in the RFP.
Okay.
So that's where that came from.
Okay. I just want to clarify it.
Yep.
Now, the other thing was, you had a number of conditional approvals like Attleboro, Hudson, North Andover, Wakefield. What does that mean? Just what stage you're at with those towns, or?
We submit, I typically, after we get a draft, before we go to sort of get our letters of support, it depends on the community. So some communities were like, well, let's get it into DCS for them to review, because they always have comments. I mean, there's always something. So we put it in for review while we're finishing up the ADA evaluation, or we're collecting letters, we're going to the select board or what have you, and we send it to DCS to start that review process. So DCS will then they'll review it and send a letter. And usually, Melissa Crine is very good. She'll say, okay, this is conditionally approved, but you have to address these,
Yeah.
comments before you get final approval. And what that means is, with a conditional approval, you are eligible to apply for their funding. But the way I understand it is, so if you do get a grant, they reimburse you. You wouldn't get reimbursed until you got final approval. You addressed your comments and they gave you a check.
How responsive are they to reviews?
They're responsive in the sense that, I believe Melissa Crane, she was a one-woman show for a long time, so it would take some effort, but,
We talking weeks, months?
A couple months. However, when I have submitted lately, so when I submit, so we get our conditional approval, and I have my, say 5 comments, what is helpful for her is we do a response to comments, and we'll note, see page X. And I have gotten responses back in a day or 2 on that, and gotten letters. It's sometimes the initial review can take a couple months.
Sure.
I've gotten them in weeks too. I think she has staff now, which is nice.
Yeah.
But
Knowing state agencies,
Right.
but
Right.
DCR and all, I think, is more proactive and.
Yep, and she is very approachable. If we have questions, she is so amendable to getting on a call and just talking it through. I've always had a great, just a great relationship with her in the sense that she answers questions. Like I said, easy to get on a call. If she gives us comments and we don't understand something, she's happy to explain it to us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Val?
So I love that you mentioned that you get kids involved. How do you go about doing that, and what age group of kids do you get involved with input?
So so in Middletown, we worked with, I think we had one of the school teachers had, it was like an after-school program. So we tried to tap a teacher who it was after school, so it wasn't sort of curriculum-based, so it had a little more leeway. In Wakefield, they have a student advisory council of sorts, so it's a student body at the high school, and they were amazing. They ran a meeting like the select board would run a meeting, and they're calling minutes, and it was amazing. So really trying to find, through the school department, has been our sort of best bet.
What's the youngest age you find
Folks for
productive?
middle school.
Middle, enough.
I think middle school, I think teenagers too. I think you have to speak their language a little bit and have the technology, I think maybe surveys. But if the school department is able to provide that connection, Scouts are another great resource because they do badges, they're already working on conservation land. If there's already a connection with the local troop, they're another great resource just to, especially doing outreach. I think they would be a great potential.
Any more, Ben?
So when we maybe you can explain a little bit of your end product, and I'll just get down to, say, Campbell Forest. What would you come up with a plan for Campbell Forest, for example, and how would you include grants in that?
So the open space and recreation plan is not a plan for individual properties. It's sort of it's a collective document. So we won't be doing individual plans at every property. But if there's work to be done there, like if you need a management plan or you have one and it needs to be updated, that goes in your action plan. So it is very much focused on just producing that larger document. But, we are going to review existing plans if there are opportunities to sort of move an item forward. I think when you apply for funding for certain projects, they want to know that it's been vetted with the public. And preparing an OSRP that has that action item in it shows that you have brought this to the community and they've answered to it. They've got feedback on it. To your point about funding, so the action plan of an OSRP, it has your action, who is responsible for it, we set a time frame, and then we identify potential funding sources to implement that plan. So if that property, if we know what particular things need to happen there, we can identify a funding source to help you make that action happen.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Do you have any follow-up? Great.
Who writes the grant proposal?
We identify the source. We don't write the grants for you. Yeah.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Simple enough. You were saying approximately 12 months was the magic number. What was the worst-case scenario in recent history, time-wise? In other words, 24 months? I mean, what would be, I'd like to be a realist myself.
Absolutely.
I'd like to know that there is ugly out there, and if I have to look it down, I'd like to know approximate, so, in recent history.
In recent history, so Wakefield, we are at the 2-year mark. We have conditional approval. The sticky point is getting the letter from their Conservation Commission. There were several edits that they wanted done. Then there recently have been new members that have been brought on to the commission that now want their edits to be incorporated. So that's part of that back and forth that we've been challenged with. Hudson probably took 18 months, and we delayed a public meeting. They wanted to do it after the summer. They didn't feel they were going to get attendance, so it was probably like a 6 to 8 week delay in just doing a public engagement event. Those are primarily, it's trying to coordinate meetings with public boards.
It's hard to pull it all together. It looks nice on paper, but the reality is different, truly.
And then the other, I will say, Attleboro. They are fabulous people, but the staff is over committed. They don't have the capacity to follow up or to provide. They're just too many projects.
Staff of what? What department?
And their planning department.
Okay. We have a big one. One guy.
So, and it's what the priority is. We have a conditional approval, so they can still apply for funding, should they want to do, which they did, but it's the wrapping up the comments.
Okay.
And I am not blaming my clients, of course, but it's
Sometimes it's difficult to get everybody to row together.
But towns don't have big staffs. I
They
mean,
don't
we're a
have
small
staff.
town, small town hall staff, and
and
unfortunately,
volunteers that are working on these projects.
Right.
Absolutely. That's generally, it's trying to coordinate meetings and get people time. It's time, You want a good plan that you can get stuff done, Yeah. I appreciate that question. Thank you.
Would you mind going back one slide? And on that slide, can you tell us a little bit about where you see some of the biggest challenges that would lead to going from a 9-month to a 12-month project? Like particular areas that would cause that to be of biggest concern for you?
So sections 3 through 5. So section 5 is the inventory of open space and recreational resources. Sometimes the data, the information isn't available, or there takes a lot of time to find out ownership, its protection status, grants, I feel like the inventory sometimes takes longer because there's a list of items that need to go in that matrix that accompany the inventory. So sometimes making sure all those items are accounted for can take time. Understand conservation restrictions. Some communities, just record keeping in the 70s wasn't all that great. We ran into that issue in Marshfield, and we ended up putting it as an action item to continue to research conservation restrictions. They knew they had them, but they couldn't find like the ownership. And so I think Section 5, and I mentioned this before, I think the action plan, reviewing that plan with the steering committee, and then reviewing it with the different entities that are responsible. And, you are proposing that staff will help with the steering committee, so that might be able to streamline that a bit. And just engagement, too, if you really, timing out, if you want 3 public meetings in 9 months, that's like, we've already had to have that meeting scheduled now, kind of thing. Like, you need to give people lead time to know what's happening. You need to book a space. You need to have something to present, like that first meeting. We like to have all of our background, what are we doing? This is where we're at, and that kind of thing. So that would be, I think planning for a public meeting takes a lot to pull together, especially if you want to advertise it and promote it and get people to come out.
On your Section 5, so in your proposal, you're just gathering information, you're not preparing any new information?
That is correct. We would rely on the town to do any sort of deed, we're not going to do deed research, or anything like that, we would rely on the town for that. But we will assemble it, we'll do our best to support that. But that in and of itself can take, if you don't have that inventory, and depending on how they were prepared prior, I know every time we do an open space and rec plan, the inventory gets better every time you do it. So it would just depend on how it's conditioned before, and maybe we're just adding the new properties that the town has acquired since then. So.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about public outreach, and I was wondering whether you all would be doing any, like, set up a table. We have the Wednesday farmers market, because I think you could reach a lot of people, and it would be on a more personal level to get their contributions than in a meeting where they may feel like they're on stage or they're more timid. But would there be any of that kind of outreach?
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I feel like that's one of the best ways to reach people, is to go to a farmer's market, or, if we're getting into the fall, as Autumn Fest or concerts in the park. If there's a soccer tournament, trying to go where the users are, and that's having a survey. And the other thing that is a challenge too is having a survey that's short and sweet. Sometimes if it's too long, people aren't going to take it. But I agree. I think going where people are is one of the better ways. One of our other, instead of a public meeting, we do it in an open house format. That offers a similar feeling. It's less formal. People can go at their own pace and ask questions one-on-one.
Well, and it might lead to them going to a meeting, or the more formal process, so that you don't have a meeting and nobody comes.
And you do all that work. You know what else gets people to a meeting? Food.
Oh, yeah.
Food and fun.
Open bar.
I had a meeting at, we used a brewery space, and they did not open the bar. We just were able to use the space, but yeah, that was disappointing. But yeah, I think if you offer incentives, people will come. Yeah, make it fun. I think there was a community in Vermont had a Planapalooza for their master plan update and did games. So, yeah, we have to get creative.
Chili Peppers showed up.
Up there, yeah.
Pool party at Adams.
Yep.
It's a town party.
This is
I brought my
degenerating
floaties.
quickly. Also, and I mentioned this because I'm rapidly joining the community, but like elderly outreach,
Yep.
you know, is it kind of important because they, you know, may not be on Facebook or other social media?
Absolutely. Yep, so we have, in Hudson, we had a meeting at the senior center. We went to an ice cream social, and we did a short presentation, and we just went around the room and asked them about what they saw their biggest, what they liked, what was the biggest challenge, doing your ADA evaluation, that's going to cross paths because, you know, we age into disability. But yeah, I agree. So the youth, the elderly, both bigger user. I think the other more challenging group to reach are young families. They just don't have time. And
That's where you go to the farmer's market.
that's where we go to the farmer's market, we go to the Little League games, we go to the soccer tournament, the lacrosse games, whatever, which didn't exist, nobody was doing it. Pickleball.
Would you be Zooming any of these
Everybody
public meetings so that if some of these families could attend, even if they couldn't pitch in, you know?
We do hybrids. It's more of a listening
Yeah.
portion. We also do sort of a companion survey type thing. So if we did a public meeting and we had small groups and we asked sort of a series of questions, we would put those questions in a survey so people could follow up after. But yeah, we've done that as well. I feel there's value in the in-person, but I do recognize if we could do a hybrid, just so they can listen, like you said, and a mechanism for them to provide feedback.
Any more? Rich, anything? With your knowledge of Norfolk, what's going to be the challenge to do this?
The challenge.
The Conservation Commission?
Mostly.
Oh!
They're the stars.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, okay.
Sign that contract. I think it's going to be trying not to duplicate what you did in your master plan. I feel like there's going to be some similar questions, people trying to be innovative, to get people to come out and give feedback, not the usual suspects kind of thing. That's always the biggest challenge.
Okay. Knowing your business and the projects you have going on, how does this fit in and when can you start?
I mean, we can start right away. I mean, that is not an issue.
Okay.
Yep. I can't remember. I did bring my cheat sheets. I don't know when you, I did month 1 through whatever, because sometimes procurement processes take some time, so trying to manage that as well also kind of feeds into.
Oh, good. Well, I think that's it for questions. We thank you very much for
I appreciate it.
coming and responding to our RFQ,
Absolutely.
RFP. And we'll take all of the information you provided and what you gave today and assess it all, and then we'll combine, have the meeting when we compare all 3 groups. So,
Well, I appreciate you inviting me.
thank you. And I have to apologize, they turn off the air conditioning at 6 o'clock when the town hall closes.
It's actually the weather has gotten better out
Yeah.
there.
It's
amazing.
It was 69 degrees when I left the house.
No.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it was like 95 yesterday.
Yeah, you need a couple of shekels. Give me a little ice, will you? Just want to go see a man about a pony before the next one starts it. Yeah, and God, I didn't know it was that easy. I would have helped you out with that a little while ago.
Yeah.
Well, good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
For your time. Thank you. Presentation.
Excellent. Give us a moment to set up these.
Everybody enjoying their summer? Val?
I just got back from Mount Washington
Nice.
yesterday. I got to.
You weren't
stay-
one of the lost people,
No, I wasn't. I got to stay in the observatory overnight.
did you?
Yeah, they did teacher training.
Oh, wow.
It was like the coolest thing I've ever done.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure. When does,
Observatory overnight?
Yeah.
That's so
It's like in a bunkhouse.
What's the
and-
cost
Oh, you
extra?
get to sleep in the bunkhouse?
regarding school, when do you go back? You as a teacher,
The 28th.
and when does school start?
That's when school starts.
You don't go in earlier? You can?
We go back, I think, the Tuesday
Cool,
before.
okay.
Yeah.
Could you see the Milky Way?
Yes. Oh my God, it was so nice.
It's crazy.
And then we also saw like this thunderstorm like way off in the distance. It was really cool.
What is it?
A thunderstorm, just like way off in the distance. Yeah, it was cool.
Oh, teachers have all the fun.
They said during COVID, like people from cities and stuff would look up in the sky, they're reporting all this dangerous that was the Milky Way. Just hadn't had such darkness.
Northern Lights too, sometimes.
I didn't see them when I was there the other night, but they did have pictures of the Nancy them.
Did you get to use the telescope?
We didn't use a telescope, but they showed us all these different like tools that they use for like measuring the weather and recording data. So,
Cool.
yeah.
All right, you're up, if you're ready.
I think so, yeah. Thank you, everyone. Can we just get started now? Yep. Right. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to present before you tonight. We're excited to discuss how MAPC can help support Norfolk and updating its open space and recreation plan. My name is Carlos Montañez. I'm a principal planner at MAPC. I'm on our land use generalist team. I'm joined this evening by my colleague Sukanya Sharma. She's a senior regional land use planner on our team as well. And she's kindly joining us tonight because other members of our project team unfortunately can't be able to join us in person tonight. Some of them are out of the country. So, we'll start with a brief overview of MAPC and the team you'd be working with. Then we'll share our approach, our understanding of Norfolk's local context, and also our commitments to this process for you. And then after the presentation, we can do a Q&A and your discussion and answer all your questions. Thank you. So now we'll touch on who we are. So MAPC is the regional planning agency for 101 cities and towns across greater Boston. Highlighted in black on the map is Norfolk within our service region. And our interdisciplinary team, we bring expertise across a variety of different topics, including land use, housing, transportation, as well as the environment, climate, and community engagement. The core team includes Josh Fiala as our principal in charge, myself as project manager, and Courtney Lewis as senior planner. And together we bring deep open space and master planning experience. We'll also pull in other MAPC staff as needed, including mapping and community engagement support throughout the process. So, as the regional planning agency for Greater Boston, we also serve as the reviewer for other municipalities' OSRP plans. So we know what it takes for it to meet the state requirements for it, and also what makes a plan actionable. Apart from our interdisciplinary team, we also bring a deep understanding of Norfolk's local context, having completed various planning processes with the town in the past. We've supported the development of over 8 OSRPs since 2010, all of which have been approved by the state with a very high initial success rate, oftentimes with no changes requested. So here's some examples of OSRPs we've completed since 2010 in various communities within our region. MAPC has helped a wide range of communities, from small towns to gateway cities, to create approved open space plans that reflect their unique needs, including tailored strategies for environmental justice, or EJ, communities, climate focus, arts focus, as well as increasing universal access to open spaces beyond just ADA. So now we'll move on to our proposed approach for you. So our approach balances meaningful community engagement with robust data analysis. We'll engage residents and stakeholders to define what a shared vision is and update your shared vision in your prior plan. The process will be guided by a local advisory committee, helping to shape priorities from the very start of the process. And we'll use the most current data and also mapping tools such as ArcGIS to analyze existing assets and also future opportunities for you. Thank you, Saganya. We'll also bring a regional lens, recognizing that open space and natural systems cross town lines often. So now we'll discuss how we propose to engage the community to define needs and also update a shared vision with goals for you. So on the engagement slide that we have, we're proposing 3 public forums as opposed to the 2 that you had in your OSRP 17, your previous iteration, in order to support inclusive, iterative community engagement and input. Alongside also a town-wide survey, we'll also conduct targeted engagement to meet folks where they are already, like at student councils, the Council on Aging, and also like important events throughout the calendar. We'll also focus on underrepresented voices such as youth, renters, seniors, veterans, and also the households in Norfolk's 2 environmental justice EJ block groups. Translation and interpretation support will be available, as accessibility and equity are also core to our process. And now, on this slide, we have an example of how we've supported many communities thus far, such as like the city of Salem with their open space plan, by tailoring committee discussion exercises that were tailored to their specific needs. This slide shows how we've helped their open space committee break down property types, user needs, as well as priorities towards shaping a realistic, actionable plan for open space and parks improvements. And on this slide, we have an example of how MAPC also supported Salem's community and that open space planning committee. This slide shows how we broke down a large and often like unwieldy inventory of an open space assets on many, many, many pages in the document, and made it much more digestible for the public to digest and to give us public input. And we did so by analyzing over 223 properties in their inventory by use, user groups, and also facility types in order to enable clearer discussion and also more focused planning for the brainstorming that we did with them. So now we'll just touch on a few brief points about how we believe our local understanding of Norfolk can also help you. So we bring deep familiarity with Norfolk's planning context. MAPC reviewed your past 2017 OSRP, and we authored your 2024 master plan. So this continuity means that we're uniquely positioned to ensure alignment across the plans and also reduce community fatigue, because we will be mindful of what we present in this update. Thank you. So we're also fully prepared to meet the new requirements introduced by the state with the new updated State 2025 OSRP workbook, including a 10-year action plan that's now required instead of the prior 7-year action plan. Also, there's new requirements for stronger focus on environmental justice, and also requirements for deeper integration of climate resilience and agricultural planning in the new workbook.
One question, what's the 600 new homes for Norfolk?
That's listed in your master plan as a projection. That's currently in the approved master plan.
Okay.
So we understand your growth pressures, and the master plan, that your 2024 master plan mentions a projection of potentially up to 600 homes by the year 2050. So we understand the pressures that the town is going, also utility limitations with water and sewer. And also Community Preservation Act funding changes and challenges. So that balancing act as we are mindful of your open space planning. Our plan will try to reflect the town's priorities, like preserving rural character, expanding universal access to open space, and enhancing climate-ready infrastructure, and thinking of your open space also as like a way of dealing with climate change. So our proposal aims to respond directly to Norfolk's needs and also the evolving state plan requirements. We're committed to delivering a clear, actionable plan, and we pride ourselves on staying on schedule, on budget, and also maintaining a collaborative and transparent partnership with our municipal clients. And thank you, and now we can have a deeper dive into your questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. What you provided a lot of information, and it was good reading. And I liked some of the comments you made about assisting the town in determining, clarifying the various roles and responsibilities, because you do know Norfolk, you know the size of the government, and how many volunteer parts of it are. And so it's difficult to sometimes bring it all together. And when you talk about Walpole, and I think it's true here, it's one of the most important challenges is not our lack of resources, but people just don't know about what properties the town owns and who owns them and what can be done on the properties. And so I thought that was a good thing. But I really don't have any other questions. Do you? Val?
Yeah. So in what ways have you planned for climate resilience in other towns that are similar to like a town that is our size?
So we also have like a full environment department that we collaborate with, and as part of the new open space requirements, we're also required. We have been performing municipal vulnerability preparedness (MVP) plans. So we always bring in like a sustainability and climate resilience focus. So there are concepts of having floodable parks or being able to be prepared for storm events as a way of enjoying natural resources and parks, but also helping the town with local issues such as flooding and that sort of thing. So that is like and that's been an emerging practice that we've been a part of.
Great,
Thank you.
Jim?
So I have one kind of complex question. So for example, just take Campbell Forest. At the end of this event, would you be able to identify the issues that we've seen so far, which is the lack of a continuous plan, no maintenance plan, and then no forest management, wildlife plan, and then how at the end would we be able to sell to the town? This is what we have for a resource. This is how much we need to maintain. And these are the projects that we can get a grant for. And once we get these projects done, what would be the maintenance approximately to keep this project going? So if we made 88 trails, and they need to be maintained every year, we need to have a budget that maintains those trails. Is that something that you're going to help us through your project with?
We usually don't get to that level of like being that granular with that detail, other than we can do our best to flag that. So it's an exercise in brainstorm. So first of all, you're not starting from scratch. You have an OSRP with some information in it. So when we mentioned not doing community fatigue and taking advantage of the knowledge that we have on your prior OSRP and your more up-to-date master plan that built upon open space goals, we would jumpstart the conversations with the local committee, and also jumpstart the conversations at the very first public forum with giving people cliff notes, if you want to call it that, like saying we've read it, we've read it for you, and this is what you need to know about your prior plan, and also reporting back on what you've implemented. So like celebrating that you've progressed on some of those action items. So giving the town credit for doing the work on certain items. And then also, well, you don't have to focus on those. These were the other items in your prior plan that were deemed a priority that weren't done. Are those, and then so basically airing that out and saying, do any of these still resonate, or are there other things? So we start with that kind of jump starting the conversation and giving people like a refresher. And then we can ask them, are there other things? And so that slide with like the different types of property types and active and passive recreation and natural areas and plazas and gardens. So we would also show them a menu of like possibility and ideas and ask them, what is priority to you? So like the Campbell Forest, we're objective, so we're not going to come in and say this is the priority unless it was already stated from input in the prior OSRP through the survey or the prior master plan. So that's what we would try to do, and then see which items rise to the top in terms of which areas or properties are deemed a priority, and then what ideas people have for facilities and amenity improvements, right? So you can acquire a property, and then you have to, maybe it needs a gazebo, maybe it needs benches, maybe it needs a restroom. So that's the kind of thing that we would ask people to have, like a menu of a wish list that's realistic, or start with the wish list first, and then once we've gotten enough participation and we can say, hey, people who participated, these are the items that really resonated, then we could get to that level in the implementation table and in the action plan. And we could have a table that's a little bit more interesting with like icons representing like order of magnitude of cost. Like this is low-hanging fruit, like this is benches, or we could do some benches, but if there's another idea for an improvement that's costlier, we can represent that, but I don't know if we could be able to estimate it to that extent in terms of maintenance, other than flagging it as a concern.
Priority.
A priority.
I'd just add that, I think the level of detail of this is the estimated cost of how much it'll take to maintain something. I don't think we'll be able to get to that cost, but prioritizing that as one of the main to-do list for the commission or for a volunteer-led, like friends of the Campbell Forest kind of a situation, they can sort of prioritize that, and we can definitely flag how that can be implemented by seeking certain grants that open up because an OSRP was created. So we can definitely have that implementation matrix as part of it to show these are the grants that you can access to do a study, to give you a sense of this is the maintenance plan going forward.
So at the end, your recommendation would be, in the plan, you would end with, we need to have it surveyed, or that would be a recommendation. You're losing, you could have more ADA space, you could have better parking, you could have it electronically flagged. So that would be what you would, that would be, from what I'm
Something-
understanding, your...
Yeah.
We would include those details because that's useful information, but we wouldn't be able to estimate the cost. And we're not, OSRPs, you don't actually design, like you don't actually do the park designs. You flag a particular property as like this is a priority versus another property, and then separately it's almost like you have a mix and match menu, and then this is what participants said in terms of, do they want indoor recreation, do you want like an indoor pool, a skating rink, do you want like, and we could also do a similar thing to manage expectations and say that's like a costly, like maybe we represent the wish list in terms of like big bucket items and like little items, so people have that understanding that things cost money. And then the recommendation would be, these are the places that people said really need attention for either like major improvements or just maintenance. And then these are the items, and these are like higher cost items, and these are lower cost items.
And just to add, the OSRP can definitely be, though, used to be as like an educational piece of it also, as Carlos mentioned, like a jumping off point for folks. So attention can be drawn to that asset, and at least the conversation will get started during the community engagement bit. But I think the strategy and then how you implement that strategy is definitely something we can just add like as a priority in the list of implementation matrix. But yeah, I don't think we'll be able to sort of add cost to it in that granularity.
Okay. And what about grants?
We include like definitely like a resources section of these are the grants that you could unlock. These are, and some of them are for acquisition, some of them are for improvement, some of them are for, I believe maybe some are for maintenance, but I'm not certain about that. Yeah.
Like EEA and DCS grants around land and park grants, and I'm sure there are a few more that get unlocked if you have a valid OSRP. Those are definitely things that we can highlight as like these are the ways. And then there are of course like other projects that happen at MAPC, like for example our transportation team focuses on greenways and trail network. We have like a landline inventory of within our region trying to map trails. We also flag such projects to highlight the sort of regional nature of where the town could collaborate and sort of build on a certain strategy if that is relevant.
Okay.
Do you help with writing the grants?
We do help as like a agency, but not as part of OSRP.
Yeah, correct.
That,
that is.
No, secondary.
Yeah,
secondary,
absolutely.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
An additional cost,
And
not
we,
to worry. Sure.
and we do have a funding bucket within our agency to do like charge our time too, so the town does not have to bear the cost of that. So that's a DLTA funding, gap funding that is appropriated every year. So it is dependent on whether it's appropriated that year, but it's to allow us to access state and federal funds, more so state in this case, but yeah.
My one question is, you know your business, open space planning, what percentage of the work going on at MAPC is open space?
It's pretty frequent.
Yeah.
I personally have done 3, Salem, Everett, and I've assisted in others, and then so I don't have a grasp on, but we do it pretty frequently. And since we're the regional planning agency and we review all local RSRPs for completeness, DCS, the state reviews it for like approval.
Yeah.
So we don't have an approval authority. We have a, I guess like a reviewer for like regional lens and connectivity. Like, is there anything that could be you have like regional assets here, so like the sanctuary, the Audubon, and so some communities possess like local parks, but some communities are blessed and they also have something that's of regional significance. So we kind of look at those things in connectivity with your Metacom, am I pronouncing that right? Metacomet Trail? Yeah, so like that's of regional significance, and the Boston MPO has given funding for the design of phase one. So those are the types of things that we were looking at and reviewing for your 2017 plan.
Okay.
I have a brief question. Knowing what you know of Norfolk and what's required, what would be the time frame if you were to get the go-ahead today? Would you be able to complete the task at hand in 9 months, 12 months, approximate time frame?
12 months is what we have
12 months.
proposed, yeah. So assuming we begin the initial understanding around August, September, we hope to wrap it up by August next year.
Right, of the following year.
One of the things usually at the initial part of a project is forming and finalizing the advisory committee.
Understood.
Because we can't really start in earnest and meet if they're, if that's like delayed a little bit, then the timeline might shift by a month or two.
But an enthusiastic steering committee can really make a plan.
Sure.
And
Right, move it along greatly. Worst case scenario, how long on the other end of the same spectrum?
I've never, worst case scenario, a year and a half?
You know, it's just a question, just trying to get a
year
better
and a half.
grasp. Any challenges that you see or foresee at this stage that may delay the project from your end of it?
I don't.
Every community likes to start a project in September. That's like a thing.
So we'll be August 29th, yeah.
So that's a little bit challenging, but other than that, the formation of the group is, if there's a delay, like a significant delay on that, then the entire timeline gets shifted a little bit.
Of course, it sets back.
Yeah.
Understandable. I'm good. You asked about the grants.
Can you give another rundown on the public awareness, that component of it, really quickly, just in terms of how do you approach the in-person versus digital?
So there are competing thoughts on that. We have done the one, I guess, consensus that's been emerging for quite a while is that to pull off a large interactive community event that's fully hybrid is extremely challenging logistically because of the setup, the technology. If you're going to have interactive exercises, what are people experiencing remotely, virtually, than the people they're experiencing in the room? It's very tricky to make it perfect or fully satisfactory. So what we don't do like hybrid events at that scale, unfortunately, because we avoid them because they're super logistically
So
costly.
everything's in person?
We do
Majority.
asynchronous, so a variety of things. So we'll do an in-person and then we'll do a virtual. We call you extend the life of the in-person with the digital open house as well, which is you try to replicate some of the boards and some of the things, not just like a PowerPoint, but there are different ways of kind of getting at it so that someone that's like an in-person type of person will have an opportunity to come to 1 or 2 or 3 events, and there'll also be opportunities for people that don't want to, like on a cold day when it's snowing, I'm gonna stay home. So there'll be opportunities for people to give input whether or not they attend the physical one or not, and there's a town-wide survey that we would imagine. I've had success with having a good survey run for at least 2 months, if not 3 months, to give plenty of opportunity. And what you do is you kick it off maybe let's say 2 months, you kick it off on a given month, and then you intentionally hold an event or a forum in the middle while it's still active. You have the event, and you also heavily promote that if you haven't taken the survey, you still can, and then you let it run for the month after. So that is kind of a way of addressing that.
And I would add, when we say a survey, it's of course like a digital format, but also handouts that can be dropped off at town hall or the youth, like at school or senior center, and then also the sort of side of letting people, like meeting people where they're at. So we do table events, like if there's a town event, we go there and have a table and try to promote the event, but then also gather input as much as we can. So that's part of our sort of ad hoc engagement that we try to get to where people are instead of asking them to come in on cold days or
So if you map out in the next year, what are like the 3 best events that you know are going to happen that we could attend and intercept and set up a table and do our best, like posters and flyers and get people's attention to get input then and there, but also like promote like either a survey or come to the future event as well.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We should start off with you, so you could ask some other questions first.
I think you guys have pretty much covered it. I thank you for your presentation, but I would say that, you know, we're a small community and I'm fairly new here, but I know a lot of the people like that's showing up, you know, and being there at you know, we have a weekly farmers market or the library. So yeah, and I think that some of the more traditional people would probably appreciate that access.
Do you, your events, or how well attended are they?
We have the community day, they get about 2,000.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
But it's not all our residents, but primarily they are. So that's probably the largest community event, other than sports.
We've done sports too. We've covered some games too sometimes when we know community will have done.
One of the things that is kind of pointed out is in the past on the Norfolk community page, it's been pointed out that the seniors weren't well represented because lack of technology, lack of mobility, they're not on social media, they're not attending these functions, so that would be something that would need to be addressed, is that,
we could go to the council, like a senior center.
And then do a presentation.
Like if there's an event, like if they're gathered for an activity and we could get an hour of their time and allow them to give us input as well while we're there.
Now, I guess my last question. We kind of have almost 3 groups. We have the group of people that like using the trails. We have the group with the young families that are using all the recreation areas and playgrounds. And then we have a group that wants to keep Norfolk just looking the way it is now. And how do you address so that if you took and had said, okay, we're going to vote on all SRP, just everybody come, it's going to be predominantly families with kids, because that's what takes up the whole thing. So how do you...
What do you mean takes up the whole thing? Like
there's more of them. There's more
bigger
families
population
with kids
of that
than there are, people who are just using the trails, or people that don't use the trails or don't use the recreation areas, but want driving down the road for Norfolk to kind of be that way, to be able to have properties that we've purchased that maintain that look of being, in a rural town.
Well, we try to we try to balance those needs. I mean, just right, and then also everything doesn't exist exactly the way it is now, and like your exact life circumstance at this moment might change, and you might want a different type of recreational facility in the future. So you kind of need them all. So we would try to represent all of those needs for different reasons and explain why. So we try to reflect what the majority of the consensus is, because that's fair, but at the same time, as like the equity part is like the underrepresented, like you need, whether or not, if no one's thinking about seniors or veterans, someone has to be thinking about them, and if they can't attend, so I would advise on the composition of the advisory committee that we have that built in as well. So just in case That is actually, that's a good point, actually. I forgot about, so we usually form like a slightly larger group than you would think, because not everyone can attend every single meeting, but also having all of those different perspectives on it, so that's already built into the input.
These meetings are more just discussion. They don't vote on things.
Brainstorming.
It's just all brainstorming. Here's what the information you've got to date. Let's dissect
And
it.
guidance on-
And yeah, guidance.
Guidance.
Where
We do exercises, so we'll try to do like a brainstorming exercise that's not a survey, but it's like a little bit standardized, a little methodical, so we can get like a pulse. That's because some people speak more than others, so we want to make sure we hear from everyone, and then we can say, yeah, like that really, people really wanted that, and then in order to extend, like if we don't have, ideally you'd have many more meetings, we give homework assignments between the meetings, like for 3 weeks, you have a file, or like we'll prepare something, like almost like a questionnaire, and we'll ask people to fill it out, and then we'll tally it up, so that when we have a meeting, we can report back. It kind of like jumpstarts those discussions too, and saying like, this has momentum, this doesn't. This idea is like really, you guys agree on this one not so much. So hopefully that's like a way of making those meetings useful. And we bring that information to the forums too. So you can imagine you have like a poster board session, and we'll have different, poster boards, and people can like consume the information at their own pace. But we also like to reflect, the advisory group has been meeting, and this is what they were thinking at that session. And basically, we want to build after you have some advisory committee meetings between the forums and then the survey. So each time one of those things occurred throughout the process, we are cumulatively building and showing you, like, and giving people, like, that's what they said, do you agree or disagree with them? And that's a way of, it's like a snowball or something, or just building momentum, or showing consensus.
Yep, and I would just add, in terms of like balancing perspectives, there's also the green infrastructure piece, the climate resiliency piece, that sort of elevates some of those open space needs, which are not necessarily just recreational, but more around, we need to protect like these wetlands or Chapter 97 lands or things like that. So elevating that piece as well. And I think as we then drill down into strategies, it's not just about like those recreational activities that seem to be a very popular conversation and input point, but I think then that sort of also moves the piece on like not very active recreational spaces, which is more for scenic value, or where folks can like non-playground and sports centered recreation. So I think those things get balanced in that way as well, when we sort of talking about green infrastructure, climate resiliency, things like that.
My final question is, we are a 7-person board. How should we be represented on the steering committee? How many of us?
Depends on the size of, so for Salem OSRP, which was the most recent one I personally did, I think we had 18 members.
Okay, how about towns more of our size?
Well, so it's all, you never know if you can get people to attend any given meeting, so that number seems too large, but it's rare to get perfect attendance.
Sure.
So, and then if you want to represent all those perspectives, then the number, like I find that I tell most like OSRPs or master plans, it doesn't matter the town size, we want like at least this amount of people, because invariably life happens and you can't attend the thing that you said you could. So we have at least 10 or 12 people at any given meeting, and then some of those points of view are represented as well.
There are different groups that we want to have represented on the steering committee. Do you typically say, okay, conservation, you can put as many as you want, but we want at least up to 3 people from recreation. We want 2 people from the senior community. We want, 1 person from education, this and that.
You can go about it that way. So typically I recall 2 from the planning board, 2 from the select board, 2 from park, and then
Wait a minute, 2 from the select board. We're only a 3-person board.
Oh, okay. So that would be, okay. So that would be 1. So, but like, yeah. But like in some instances, it makes sense to have 2. In others, 1 is enough. But that point still
Okay.
holds, I think, that I would like to be able at each given meeting to have at about 10 people minimum at it. And if you nominate or appoint a 9, that you might get 5 or 4,
Yeah.
depending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate your, what you presented in the proposal, and tonight, the discussion, I think, was fruitful. So we'll be able to make decisions.
Appreciate it very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Likewise, thanks.
Everybody, it's supposed to storm.
Is-
So, like, be careful on the roads.
Okay.
If you have to hit low spots or something. They're really talking about.
Is it raining yet? No.
It was sprinkling, but
Yeah.
I was supposed to start a couple hours ago, I thought.
It's New England. We don't ever know when it's going to start. Okay, since everything is fresh in our mind, do we want to take a quick comment and preliminary vote on this?
I think we should invest a little more time in speaking amongst ourselves. And
little more
so
thought.
maybe, if you didn't want to get out of here before 9:30, maybe. But,
No, I wasn't, 9 o'clock is fine, should be.
no. But,
Got to ask permission from the little lady first. He told
I gotta
me to
check
be
in
home
with
by
my
9.
boss.
Yeah, he's supposed to be home by 9.
Yeah,
I'm going to turn
6
into a
minutes.
pumpkin.
okay.
No, seriously though, I mean, I wouldn't want to rush you in anything, even though it would just be a preliminary vote,
Okay.
I mean, I'd be up for discussing it briefly off camera.
No, can we do that? Well,
I mean, just amongst ourselves.
you can't.
You can't,
No, it's public forum.
right? Well,
We could put it as an action item in our,
Yes, the
Well, you
next
definitely
agenda.
we'll have it on for your August 13th meeting as an action item.
right?
It'll probably take up most of the meeting.
I will not be at that meeting, unfortunately.
Come on now.
I have
Again?
another professional development thing on that day, so.
Now, we'll say you do have a pretty full agenda on the 13th too, just so you know. I mean, think
And
ahead.
we don't have to make a decision
No.
August. We can go into September.
Yeah, yeah.
And we can
No.
have a special meeting also,
Correct.
if
Absolutely.
everybody's agreeable.
Yeah, I
But
just want to let you know,
if-
give you a heads
yeah.
up. You gotta.
It's
I've always
it's
been told I'm
building.
disagreeable, so I don't know if that works.
Majority wins.
Case in point.
Oh, I think it was, again, good discussions.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
I mean, they each said exactly what they were going to do. Whether we thought it was what we wanted or not, we asked each of them the same questions. I think we were fair, without any preconceived notions, because we read, their proposals first, but we let them talk. We asked them each the same type of questions and gave them the opportunity to say how their company would represent Norfolk in the end of the OSRP. So I think it was 3 good, fair interviews, and each had, it's not like we gave one an hour and said the rest, yeah, we already made your decision either way.
Right.
So they each had an opportunity to, I think, fairly say how they would present an OSRP and their view of what it should look like.
I agree.
So I think
mean,
it's,
I'm definitely leaning one way, but as I say, I'd still like to take it under advisement and kick it around.
Yeah, I think a little brainstorming and saying pluses or minuses and.
Would you want to, let me ask you, so there are references in there, did you want to maybe divvy that up? So somebody, how'd you want to?
I don't,
I could call.
No,
I understand.
no, that's a good idea.
So I don't know if you want, I could just, so you say, all right, we'll call this reference, I can do that, but would you want to like reach out to the references?
I could participate in calling a couple
It's up to you,
I think maybe, not to give everybody homework, but I think it would be a good thing to take maybe the top 3 or 4 things from each of the applicants and see if those are the things we want the applicant that we hire to do. like, for example, all 8 maps. That's
Apples
no...
and apples, comparing
Yeah,
all the same.
we want the trails mapped, or we don't want the trails mapped. Whatever each of us think might be like the top 3 or 4 things that are important, and then give maybe we pick one that didn't say they were going to do something. But then we present to them and say, hey, we'd like to hire you, we liked you, but you weren't going to do A, B, and C, which the others said they would. Would that be a consideration for you? And then
Yeah, well,
whatever...
I will say one thing. I didn't see in the RFP where they weren't required to do mapping, so I will say that, just as I went back through and read it, so.
Right, no, that was
Just
the
as a
question
point
I
as you
had.
kind of think about it.
Yeah.
Just as you noodle on this,
Yeah.
that struck me, so I went back. I'm not seeing that we're doing the mapping, so.
Yeah.
Caught my ear right away.
Well, that's why, who's doing the homework? Are we,
Who's getting paid?
are we doing it as a volunteer group, or, our very limited staff, to do mapping?
I haven't drafted that RFP. I went back, I'll read it again. I didn't see where
Yeah.
Well, it was...
myself or you all would be doing mapping.
Yeah, and I think that's what we want, is an outside company
Yeah.
to do it, because they have more than resources than we
They have
have.
the,
Well,
they have the
Technology.
and the software, you name it. So.
But that's part of what a consultant should be doing, isn't saying, based on my experience with a town your size, you don't have the capability of doing these things.
Yeah.
You're hiring, well, no, we're hiring them to come up with a plan.
Right, right.
Because if we could come up with our own plan, we would need to hire you, but we don't have that staff to be able to do it, and we'd like a company that does this to give us some other insight as to, not just us saying the same thing, what is somebody else saying that this is all they do for work? Hey, we're outside of Norfolk, but looking in saying, hey, you're missing this, this, and this, and I did this project in this same type of acreage, and it worked out better. What do you think of this? And I think that's what we need. I saw in some, didn't see in others.
No,
And I
it's very
think
clear.
the interpretation of what an OSRP is to some are different. And I think a big thing is eye-opening during the interview was the grants.
Well,
Too.
I think,
Sleep on it.
yeah, and I can't imagine that they don't create the plan without consideration for what is required to get the grants. So I think maybe she just misspoke about, just dismissed it altogether. But I think anybody who's making a plan is conscious of the fact that it's got to satisfy a grant request.
And, and I completely understand. She probably got here, she was trying to do the best she could.
Yeah.
And God only knows how much the other person that was supposed to come would have presented a much better case
Right.
than what she was able to do.
But it's all we have to go on
I
as
agree.
well.
But at least we have these other,
That was the only thing of anything I heard tonight.
The grants.
Not the grant, the mapping piece. That was.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is.
Mapping is first.
Right, that's a big part of this.
like,
so-
how do you come up with a plan if you don't have the maps?
Right, so.
Well,
But,
the one point that I will add to that caught my attention right away was that, from my aspect, taking all into consideration what I've heard this evening, I personally would prefer a turnkey operation, stem to stern, that would cover us without any additional costs or additional time delays, a company that can handle the mapping if required, the grants, et cetera, et cetera. It just makes more sense to.
We don't have the manpower for burden.
No, sir.
Well, no, the other thing, and is no offense to Richard, if we got a plan from Group A, and they said, this is what you need to do, versus trying to sell a plan, oh, Richard came up with this plan with conservation, they're going to say, oh, you guys are just on a money grab. But we get it from an outside firm that says, based on our experience, this is what we need to do. And then we can all do our job of implementing the plan. But when it comes from us, I think it's a different sell than when it comes from an outside firm saying, we looked at your master plan, we looked at the OSRP, this is what we need to do going forward. And we listen to all the people in your community, and, we went to senior centers, we went to farmers markets. We really put out, an effort to listen to all of you, and this is what we say needs to be done. This is how we can get grants, and this is what we need to do. And I think that's why we're doing this. And I think to have a company that doesn't finish the grants is going to leave us like we were before with, now who's going to, now we got to try to find a company to write a grant, and we're, struggling to finish. We need somebody to help us get to the end line, to say, this is what you need to do. So it's easier for us to check off the boxes and say, hey, we write a plan, we need to go to the town, we need $45,000 a year to maintain these conditions that we have effectively so everyone can use them. And then we're all set. But if we have what we have now, we're not in a position to manage what we have.
It's piecemeal.
We don't. So we need to live with what we have, but I think having an OSRP that reflects what we truly want to have done is incredibly important coming out of this, and then help afterwards being a partner, helping us get the grants, and then writing writing what needs to be done when we get the grant money. So, and someone that's going to partner with us in the long term.
All right, why don't we end the meeting? Andrew?
He's dead.
Well, I think we're done talking.
Okay, do you have to adjourn officially? Or?
Make a motion.
Yeah, make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's closed.